us right now is Trump presidential campaign senior policy advisor, Stephen Miller. Stephen, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, it's great to be with you this morning.
So your take on these efforts by the establishment to block Donald Trump's bid for the White House?
Well, if this was a normal election year, obviously Marco Rubio would have dropped out before Florida, John Kasich would have dropped out before Ohio, and Ted Cruz would have dropped out after getting swept in yet another Super Tuesday. But there is an all-out effort to stop Donald Trump from the established power brokers. The question we have to ask is why? And the answer is that the failed political class is trying to hold on to power. And what do I mean by that? The people who've authored our terrible trade deals, the people responsible for our disastrous immigration policies, the people who put us into war after war in the Middle East, all of these people want to stop Donald Trump so things can stay exactly as they are right now.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, Stephen. And the fact is the people, certainly 35–40% of Republicans are siding with Trump because those issues that he brought up are resonating with people. I mean, you and I have spoken. When you look at immigration, this is probably the most fundamental thing of any election, right? Who gets to live in this country? Who gets to work in this country? Who gets to participate in our democracy?
That is exactly right. That's what immigration policy is about. Immigration policy is about who can enter the United States, who can live in the United States, who can work and be part of the United States democracy. And right now, our policy is anybody can come in, no screening, no checks, no rules, and who pays the price? American workers struggling to make ends meet, struggling to provide for their families, not to mention the effects on crime, on our community resources, on police departments, on hospitals. It affects every aspect of life in America.
Not to mention jobs too.
Right, and jobs, wages, employment prospects. And when you see Lindsey Graham supporting Ted Cruz, what does that tell you? Lindsey Graham is the author of our open borders immigration policy. Lindsey Graham is the man who came up with our terrible foreign policy. Lindsey Graham is the face of the failed Washington establishment. So for him to say he wants Ted Cruz, not Donald Trump, what he's really saying is that his bet, his money, is that a Ted Cruz administration means absolutely nothing changing.
We got Matt Murray here from the Wall Street Journal. This issue, Matt, of immigration is ripping the Republican Party apart.
Yeah, and I'd like to know from Stephen, where do you see this going? I mean, the argument part of for the Trump campaign is that eventually, as he won voters, people would fall in line. We're really not seeing that right now. Do you think that there'll be a delayed falling in line, or are we headed for a convention showdown here?
Well, I think if you look at last Tuesday, you've seen people unifying behind Donald Trump. I mean, he won every single state, and he nearly won Ohio, which is unprecedented. I mean, you're talking about a governor in Ohio with a very high approval rating, and we came within just a few points of beating him. And then, of course, in Florida, we won 66 or 65 counties. Marco Rubio won only one county in the state he represents. And you've seen several polls with Mr. Trump in a crowded field with 50% or more than 50% national support. So we're expecting to get to 1237, but the point that I'm trying to make today is that if this was any kind of normal year, everyone else would be dropped out already, and they wouldn't be fighting for one state here and one state there, and so we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But the question that matters, and what Maria was asking about, is the why. Why is it that you have people like Lindsey Graham trying to do everything in their power to keep Donald Trump from being the nominee?
Right.
And my point is that it's about policy. First and foremost, it's about people trying to cling to failed policies.
Stephen, really quickly, because, again, you shut down all the naysayers if you get to that 1237 before Cleveland. What are you guys doing specifically to bolster the campaign, bolster the infrastructure, to really hunker down in these remaining states with that critical winner-take-all Arizona coming up, and just end it with that victory, with the majority?
Well, right now what we're hoping is that as we head into geography, very, very large states with rich amounts of delegates, like a New York, like a New Jersey, we're expecting that will get us to the 1237, and that we're going to go to the convention as the nominee.
Yeah.
And we have a huge delegate lead over our nearest rival, Senator Cruz, and over John Kasich. So that's fully our expectation. But
Stephen,
regardless.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I just want to ask you about this this suspicious letter. The New York Police Department is investigating a suspicious letter containing white powder, which was sent to Eric Trump's apartment last night. Okay, this at the same time, the hacker group Anonymous, they're claiming to have released Donald's Social Security card, his phone number. Your reaction to these attacks?
Well, look, obviously that is deplorable and reprehensible in every imaginable way. And it represents just how far people will go to stop change in this country. And of course, we've seen the protests, the violent disruptions in Chicago by radical anarchists to try and stop free speech and to try and shout down Donald Trump's peaceable supporters.
Yeah.
What disappointed me was that when we had those disruptions in Chicago, Ted Cruz and John Kasich blamed Donald Trump for the behavior of radical anarchists, which was really disappointing because they should have been condemning the anarchy, not Donald Trump and his supporters.
Have you confirmed that they released the phone number and Social Security online with Donald?
Well, I don't want to get into that this morning except to say that any attempt to break the law and to hurt Mr. Trump or his family personally is disgusting, reprehensible, deplorable beyond words, and should be condemned by every single person involved in this campaign.